I'm Dr. Jeff Kaplan, and for over 30 years I've traveled the globe from Dubai to Moscow and Johannesburg, from Singapore to Shanghai and Istanbul. I've studied the world's best businesses and the people that run them. But something is very different now. From the boardroom to the break room, there's a growing realization that our relationship with work is broken. But it's not too late. You still have a choice. Hold on to the past and struggle to survive, or join the willing, change, and thrive in the world of tomorrow that's already arrived. So if you're willing to think different, willing to work different, willing to change at the speed of now, then you're willing to win. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Willing to Win. I'm Jeff Kaplan.
And I'm Tara Thomas Getman, your co-host. Always a pleasure to be here with Jeff to talk about all things work, which could at the outset seem like a boring topic. In fact, we're devoting so much of our life to it. Let's make it more fun. That's Absolutely. What Willing to Win is helping us do. The history, the research that have gone into this movement is staggering. And when you think about all the years in your life, being the bookworm that you are, that you've been reading a lot of interesting material, there's one incredibly unique, it's actually called a manifesto, that you uncovered. It set the stage for so much of not only what has unfolded, but it really aligns with the Willing to Win movement. So tell us what it's called and talk about this manifesto. It just sounds so official.
Well, yeah, it also sounds like somebody that wrote it in a cabin out in the woods. It's not that kind of manifesto. As a matter of fact, this one was actually written on the beach in Malibu.
Cool.
So that's a pretty cool manifesto. No, the Cluetrain Manifesto was a book that was published in 1999 and then made into a book. And it was basically 95 thesis. When it was a book, it was the 95 thesis plus 7 essays. And what it did is it, sort of related to Martin Luther when he took the 95, thesis and put them on the wall and sort of created the Protestant, Reformation of the church. They're saying that there needed to be a reformation of markets, right? They were predicting, as the internet was coming on, that the internet would change markets and marketing in such a way as to make everything that came before obsolete. So if anything, it doesn't align with our philosophy. We align with their philosophy because they were first. And I can just imagine them getting together on the beach in Malibu and writing this book out. The book was written by a group of guys that had known each other for a long time and had the same philosophy. And basically, they set out a set of principles that were for marketing. But when I read it, I saw the outline for tomorrow's organization. I'd already been thinking about this stuff at that point for a good 10, 15 years. And when I saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't just about marketing. This is tomorrow's organization. Let me give you an idea. I'm going to read you 5 of the thesis that they had. So the first one, which is thesis number 3, they said conversations among humans, among human beings, sound human. They are conducted in a human voice. Now that may seem like common sense to you, but when organizations talk to individuals, when you read, copy, when you're on one of those, when you see one of those commercials, it's like, have you always wanted one that would really work? Well, now here's your chance. Right? But wait, there's more. That kind of commercial. That isn't a human conversation. That's not how you and I, speak to each other. So what they were saying first off is we've got to take a breath. We got to lower the temperature and the speed of this thing and start figuring out what is it that we really want to say, and how do we really create a conversation with our customer? Because in the future, they're going to demand changes. Things are going to need to, turn on a dime, and we're going to need to know that information as early as possible. The second one, which ties into that, is whether delivering information, opinions, perspectives, dissenting arguments, or humorous asides, the human voice is typically open, natural, and uncontrived. And so one of the things that is a fundamental component of the Willing to Win philosophy is authenticity, right? So as we start to identify these folks that are part of the movement, as we start to identify what it is that we're going to accept and what we're going to fight for not to have as part of our future, we want to make sure to look out and embrace those people with a human voice that's totally authentic. These people can be reasoned with, and they can also, we know that they're in it for the right reasons. If it feels contrived, especially in this environment where everything is so raw, it's contrived, and we should probably seek to avoid it. Number 5 is people recognize each other as such from the sound of this voice. So they know if a human's talking to them or an organization's talking to them. They have a spidey sense about being manipulated and being resistant to that. And here's what they wrote. This is my favorite one only because it was so predictive of what actually came to pass. Remember, this is 1999, 22 years ago, right? And so it says, in just a few more years, the current homogenized voice of business, the sound of mission statements and brochures will seem as contrived and artificial as the language of the 18th century French court. And that's certainly, what came to pass. We're seeing these changes all over the place. We're seeing organizations start to go in bold new directions, try new ideas and new things, right? Certainly the pandemic did that. And what we're really starting to see now is the first movements toward three of the principles that we espouse. Number one, the flat, hyperlinked organization. We are seeing that more and more and more, right? And just because, when you think about it, if somebody has a platform, right, like on the internet, to talk to anybody in the world, right? Think about all the guests we've had. We've had people from Brussels, and South Africa is going to be coming up soon, and we've got people from Australia and Asia and Canada, right? This is a small show, but we have that reach. Every individual now has that reach. And
Absolutely.
It's the same thing as an organization, right? How hard would it be if you were willing to win, if you're willing to do what's really necessary for your organization to win as a CEO, to make it sort of an open video policy that maybe an hour a week, like Coffee with Coral, where people could actually talk to you. The second is there's a whole new set of expectations, right? And that's part of what this is about. We call it a negotiation, but really what it is we're going to be examining what people expect now, right? What do they want? There's this, everywhere you turn, people are saying there's a labor shortage, right? Well, is there a labor shortage, or is there a revolt on people saying, I don't want to do this kind of thing anymore. I need to work in this kind of environment. If we can just do that, we can build something great together. It's not an us versus them. It's simply, I'm as mad as hell and won't take it anymore. And then finally, we need to create organizations that are based on human conversations and inclusion, rather than, your opinion doesn't matter because I don't see a degree on your wall and you don't have the title that I have. And because I'm one step above you, I can act like your parent and tell you what to do and evaluate you and suggest how you should run your life. That I can see in your eyes. That doesn't work for you even listening to that concept, right? And that's what we're all about here. And that's what the Cluetrain gave us. It was an amazing, amazing work. And we're so excited to have them. And I know that one of the authors is about to come out with another book. Hopefully, if he hears this, or with our many pleadings, he may be on a future show with us. That would be a great honor.
They were spot on in their early prediction of, as you said, what would come to pass, because not only are we seeing that human authentic voice being so impactful and so needed coming from, the on-high corporate level, it really has translated even more because of social media. And that is what's flattening us out initially, but all of the hybrid and remote work that has come to pass and now accelerated post-pandemic, it is really changing the way that you or I would have access traditionally to the person in that corner office. And
it's sort of like what you talked to Jeremy about, right?
Yes.
And that interview is fantastic. There's some technical stuff in it, but if you just look past the technical components of it and see what he's saying, it is a willing to win thematic simplification for the people, all the people, the business, the worker, and the customer. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, you're talking about Jeremy Thomas. He's an executive with TelcoDR, based right now in Australia, but has worked all over the globe. His message is #customer love. And I had to ask him, when you put that out on your LinkedIn profile, you have to explain the hashtag. And secondary, because of everything moving to this hybrid or remote work engagement, he now wants people to be empowered to not only have that meaningful conversation, regardless of where you land in the company hierarchy, but beyond that, he wants people to understand that your digital footprint is now your calling card, and it is changing the way that you network and are perceived by employers anywhere than ever before. Let's take a listen.
Absolutely.
How did you land in your current role? All the details of your career that led you to your current situation.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. I'm back home in Australia, and that seemed to be conveniently timed with the pandemic, the COVID outbreak. I think we arrived back home maybe a month or so before the world went crazy. And I came home from 12 years in Asia, where I worked with a couple of large and small firms, Matrix Software, a Silicon Valley-based BSS vendor, on their founding journey as probably one of the first guys they hired in Asia, and in a globally focused position, you get to become aware of the real human stories. How your colleagues and staff are being affected by what's happening around the world, not what the news cycle is manufacturing for you to consume, and that gives it a bit more. It's a bit more real, so you get a sense, a pretty acute sense that we're very lucky here.
What is your job title?
I'm the Managing Director with TelcoDR. I've got responsibility for business development and commercial sales functions in another startup. TelcoDR is a startup, a market development fund that's launched a new product in the BSS area, which I'm familiar with. The business support systems, or billing support systems, as is often called, and our target market is the global telecommunications businesses. They are our customers. They're big. They can be challenging to work with, but also quite rewarding when you get it right. But things happen quite slow, but on a very large scale in that market. So.
One of your hashtags on LinkedIn, you had customer love. What does that mean to you? Yeah. And how do you put the customers first, so to speak, in terms of your engagement?
Yeah, good question. It's a phrase that my CEO, Daniel Royston of TelcoDR, has coined. I'm sure she's not the only person that's used that phrase, but it's becoming a bit of a war cry for us. As a business, as we go to market, and principally, it's really all about enabling telco operators with a new way of delivering an IT infrastructure stack in the public cloud, and by doing so, take the capex burden and the opex and the operations burden away from their business, and allow them to really get focused on customers and the needs of customers. And we're absolutely of the view that if these telcos can make that shift from being the operator of large networking infrastructure and the operator of large IT billing infrastructure, and they take a more public cloud agile delivery approach to that, then they're going to have the necessary time and the necessary capital to really get focused in on the customer needs, and dare I say it, really get their business framed around being obsessed about customer love.
When you think about the pandemic, its impact on so many industries, did it speed up the work that you've already had in motion? How did it sort of put the pedal down on the way global telecommunications is evolving?
Yeah, that's absolutely been happening, and I think the pandemic has been a very disruptive force in business. I mean, that not to minimise or be frivolous about how obvious that statement is. So if you were sort of digital or partially digital or mostly digital at the beginning of the pandemic, you're certainly digital now, or you're not transacting. So a lot of the telco operators sped up those programs to get them finished, to plug the gaps in their service, their go-to-market and their service offerings. So it's definitely sped up digital. TelcoDR, of course, is boldly taking what we believe to be the next leap forward for the industry, and that's the widespread adoption of the public cloud.
This is a unique opportunity post-pandemic for both the leaders and the workers to collectively kind of renegotiate how things will move forward in your industry, in your work, how will those relationships flourish in the coming weeks and months when you think about things not just moving virtual, but at a much faster rate than they would have before the pandemic?
Yeah, I think there's both. With all opportunity comes risk, not often great risk, but risk nonetheless. So maybe if we just touch on the opportunity first of all, the pandemic has forced people into a home work situation. That has created a tremendous opportunity for people to balance their lives with their professional responsibilities in a way that's never ever been possible or permitted before. Home working isn't new, of course, and the irony is, of course, the telecommunications industry laid the foundation for home working 20 years ago. We created internet connectivity. We created all of the tool set that have matured during the pandemic time, such as the video call that we're on here today. But we never used those tools. There was this absolute expectation that we were in aeroplanes, in customers' offices, in boardrooms, and in our own real estate, collaborating at scale with colleagues. As leaders, we have to be absolutely mindful of our own and that of our staff and colleagues. On the mental health front, we have to really be making sure that people are, in the first instance, connected to the company, and not just have an internet connection and have some software tools on a computer that work so that they can turn the machine on, get their email, and potentially collaborate with a colleague, but really, really go that extra mile to make sure they're connected to the company. They are aware of their responsibility in the company. They are aware of their value to the company. They're made to feel at all times that they are part of the mission. They know what the mission is, and they're part of that. It goes without saying that we're living in a digital era, the digital age. It always has been, but it's now more acute than it ever is. We're not meeting people at all at the moment, and we probably will never meet people in person at a frequency that we did just 18 months ago. So your digital footprint is really going to be more profoundly considered than ever in human history. Everything you do online, everything you say online, all of your social channels. I think the first piece of advice I'd be giving people thinking about their career in the world that we're now facing into with COVID-19 just becoming part of the human condition, not something you may or may not get, not something that is in your country and not in your country. It's just going to become part of the human condition. And that means we won't be meeting people the way we used to. So think about your digital footprint and start to manage that and curate that as the professional that you are or that you hope to become.
He was a great guy. I really enjoyed talking to him.
He's always been a great guy. And I actually met him. He was in a training class that I was doing for an organization in Southeast Asia. And he was amazing. And one of the things that we do is we always do what's called relational research, right? So a lot of people will think of somebody as if they are their position in an organization. Right? And we call that the front of the business card. If all you think of is that this person is a CEO or and in his case, he was an executive sales, leader in this organization, then that's all you're going to think of them because, whatever your image is of that sales leader, that's who that person is. Pretty one-dimensional, right? So what we challenge people in the Legion to do is to turn the business card over on the back. And with the exception of Asia, which is a different answer, but everywhere else in the world, when you turn the business card over, what's there?
It's blank.
It's blank. And that's the canvas for members of the Legion to work on because we are about people, right? And on the back of that card, you should put all the things that you learn about that person that makes them an individual that you want to get to know. Because on the front of the card, it's a CEO. And if it's a CEO, I'm afraid of CEOs. Therefore, I'm afraid of this person. But if on the back of the card, I know that is a grandfather who likes to play kickball with his 5-year-old grandson on the front yard, that's his joy of life. I'm not scared of that person. That person's pretty cool. I want to get to know them, right? So it's as much about putting me in the right frame of mind as it is the person I'm going to talk to. So before I meet Jeremy, I do a little research, right? And I find out that he and a group of his friends decide that they want to get in shape, but they want to do something good at the same time, right? Once again, like we said before, SSF, smarter, sexier, funnier, right? How do you do one thing and get multiple outcomes? So he decides to get into shape by biking, 10-speed biking, and he decides that they want to help a community out that's underserved. He's in Singapore at the time. I know he's in Australia now. In Singapore, he gets on his bike, he goes all the way to Vietnam, and he gets sponsors. He takes the bike all the way to Vietnam, gets sponsors, takes all that sponsorship money, and adopts an orphanage. And they do this year in and year out. And you see the videos, and there's no question that this gentleman is authentic, somebody you want to know, somebody you care about, right? And I consider him an extended member, of our family, because it all started with that back of the business card. Front of the business card, he's a business guy. Back of the business card, he cares about kids. I care about kids. That's cool. He's cool. I trust this person, right? That's the power of some of the stuff that we're talking about.
It's a great story. And when you find that commonality with someone, those are the relationships that transcend the business transaction. That's what is so meaningful. We need you to be a part of the conversation. Join Jeff and me. Go to our website, willingtowin.org. It's willing, the word spelled out, the number 2, win.org. You can watch, listen, and read more about this movement and how you can be a part of the conversation. You don't need to be a CEO living in Singapore or Sydney. You can be any man, any woman, everywhere, and have a voice. And as we've been talking about, join what is an authentic and meaningful movement. And we'll be right back. Lift Innovate is one of the fastest growing companies in America. The technology consulting firm has a reputation for being a leader in customer success and research. For the second year in a row, Lift has landed on the prestigious Inc. 5000 list of America's fastest growing private companies in its latest ranking. Lift's mission is to bridge the gap between the world's best technologies and the people that use them, striving to change the way our partners view work, one innovative idea, service, and solution at a time. To learn more, go to our website, liftinnovate.com, or call this toll-free number, 1-844-543-8877. Again, that's Lift Innovate at 1-844-543-8877. So each week we like to do what we call the Uplift so that we can leave people feeling good about themselves on a positive note. And I always say you're a glass half full person, which I love that about you. So when you sort of infect others, right, with that positivity, it can really make a difference in how they go about sometimes the drudgery and the mundane of all of our daily work and life commitments. The manifesto that we talked about earlier, the Cluetrain Manifesto, it really mapped out the course of how our lives would change when it comes to work relationships, especially where the internet is concerned. Tell us how this message that, is for all of us is translating today into an ever-evolving, ever-changing workplace really can be an uplifting and motivating and hopeful outlook.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to do in today's Uplift is suggest a way that individuals can take a little bit, they can take greater charge of their own future and participate in the Legion. But let's just take a second first and go back and think about, some of the amazing breakthroughs that we've seen in terms of Legion changes, right? So before the pandemic, or as the pandemic was starting to set in, we kept hearing from executives that there's no way we're going to go to virtual work, right? We're going to fight this tooth and nail. And when I was able to get people to admit why they were so worried about the virtualization component, it's that they really just wanted to see the person, their staff that work for them, sitting at their desk, typing, because otherwise how else are they going to know it gets done, right? Little did they know that when they finally gave in and remote work was the way that we worked throughout that year, right, that the productivity would actually go up, and that most people would never, want to go back again, or if they did, under different, different circumstances. So we saw 2 years ago, we couldn't imagine business being anything, other than in person. And then about, 6 months into it, we found out that we could actually work with remote work, right? Remote work could work. That was a big idea. And then now we're moving toward the next generation, which is this sort of hybrid work. But implicit in that is a fundamental statement that says, I want to optimize my work-life balance by reprioritizing and repositioning work as it fits into my life.
That's good.
That's a fundamental, right? So if we were writing a Cluetrain Manifesto of our own, a Willing to Win manifesto, that might be one of those planks, right? And so over the last few episodes, we've talked about some of the planks or some of the thesis that we're going to put on our manifesto, and we're going to be sharing more concretely as we move forward. So as people join the conversation, they say, yes, I want to identify with the Willing to Win movement. They're going to know the things we stand for, and then they can either reject those and say, oh, no, you need to change it this way. Great, tell us, and we'll figure out what we did wrong. Or they're going to accept it and start putting those into conversations, start advancing those ideas, and in this way shape the future, right? But it's also a tool that we can use because, one of the things that we talk about is how in control are we of our own future? How much do we really know about ourselves? And that may seem like an odd question, but really, I've been working with students, college students and grade students and graduate students for a long time. And what I find over and over again is the biggest challenge, the challenge that they have a really difficult time overcoming when I share sort of the recipe of success is they can't articulate what it is they want. Right? They don't have a vision for that future. So it may be really difficult to say, this is what I want to be and who I want to be in 20 years. You may not know. It just may be like kind of an impossible thing for you to think about right now. But what about an interim step? What about, I know I like ice cream. I know I like Tuesdays. I know I like, whatever the things are that you like and want to have more of in your life. What if you created your personal manifesto of that you want to try to create and that you're not willing to accept, and built on that? It may only be 3 or 4 planks. It may only be 3 or 4 ideas, right? But go ahead and try that. That's just this week's challenge, right? To try to create your own personal manifesto of the future about what it is you hope and dream for tomorrow and what it is you're unwilling to accept in your own future. I think that'll be very powerful, and it'll be super interesting to see what we get back from our listeners.
It's very meaningful, and just putting it to words, putting it on paper, it could change the course of someone's life because they would actually be identifying exactly what you said, what it is they really want, or at least at the outset, what they know they don't want, so they can start going after that more meaningful and fulfilling career. So go to our website to do just that. Upload a short video, even an audio clip is great, or you can just type us a message that we'd be happy to share. We don't have to use anything more than, a first name, and we have people from all over the country with their submissions. So as much as you want to remain anonymous, feel free to do so, but we want to share your words. We want your voice to be a part of this movement. So go to willingtowin.org where you can find out more, fill out a quick submission form, and be part of the conversation today. This was fun. Have a great week. Willing to Win is produced by Lift Productions. Guests on the program are not compensated, nor is their appearance representative of the Willing to Win views. Willing to Win does not necessarily endorse any people, products, or services.
If you ever wanted to be your own boss and call your own shots, welcome to the world of franchise ownership. The adventure awaits. Meet your guides on the journey, Jerry Akers and Dr. Jeff Kaplan. Jerry is one of the most successful franchise operators in the U.S., and Jeff is a global business consultant and author. They've lived it, and now they've teamed up to help you own it. Introducing Live It to Own It, your guide to selecting, developing, operating, and expanding the business of your dreams. In these pages, your franchise journey awaits. A journey that is as much about what's in your heart as it is about what's in your head. Your future awaits. If you have the passion, the drive, and the guts to put yourself on the line, it's time you live it to own it.